All right, Jane. Finally, we're here.
We're here. We did it.
We made it happen.
Well, as you can see, the Schick work is out, so we've been working on that. So it's been very busy.
No, I mean, I loved it. I loved it. Everything is like from the music to, the imagery and the colors and just everything just fits so well, very well connected.
Oh,
It's
thank
like
you.
fantastic work. Yeah, I'm sure that was how when did you start working on that? Was that like a long campaign
Mm,
or
yeah, I mean, I think that started at the pitch originally, and we shot that in February. So it's been a
okay.
little while.
Interesting. So you were I'm assuming for that one you were on post for a bit.
Hmm.
So I'm sure the post-production process was very interesting, back and forth.
It was. It was. I'm so glad that you mentioned like the color and the music and all those details because like we sweat that so much up to the
No, no,
very
I mean
end.
it just makes a lot of sense once you see it and you hear it. Um, yeah, it's a good detail. But how was that process like? I'm just curious on the music standpoint. Right? So I mean, did you have that direction at the beginning? Is that a place that you wanted to go from the beginning, or did you tweak the music direction as you
Oh
went along?
man, great question. I mean, did we tweak it? Yes, we tweaked it a lot. I mean, I didn't have anything specific in my mind, but I definitely think before we actually shot it, we all had sort of a tone and a vibe that we were thinking about, but I don't think everybody's tone and vibe was completely aligned, which was kind of interesting because I was like, once we got into the edit, I was like, oh, so we're obviously going to go something classical. And then, someone else, another creative was thinking, oh, no, we need to be more like house music. And then someone else was like, no music at all, just sensorial and like ASMR type sounds. And so we just explored everything under the sun until we landed where we landed. I think we actually put into testing too a completely different track. So there was a lot of explore there. And I'm really happy with where we got to. I think at BBH specifically, we don't like shy away from those hard discussions too, because I think sometimes it's not just with the clients, it's us internally too, having this debate back and forth of what's the best music for this track. And is it going to bring the audio to life in a way that's still going to land the idea? And
Yeah.
we always like really go there together and like push it. So it was a lot of really good, valuable back and forth between all the creatives and beyond. But we got to a really good spot. So we're happy. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, no, it's great. And because a lot of times, like, I mean, especially at the beginning, you're ideating, you have mood boards and you have, all these
Hmm.
concepts. But there's like I mentioned color because like there's a lot of color, uh different sections, right? Where you have different color palettes and everything, but the
Hmm.
music goes well with that and you're accentuating that. And
Yeah.
I feel like that was a detail that was just hard to miss.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean that was
Yeah.
very purposeful. I think even in the when we did find the track that we wanted it to feel like it had chapters for each color. So that was something that we were talking a lot about, that it had these like peaks and valleys and it took us through this. Now we're sort of into this bubble world and we added even some of those like ASMR type sounds to really elevate that too, but also make it feel like it was part of the music. So there's a lot of these little details throughout that we cut things up, we move things around just to make that work.
Yeah.
Um,
So you mentioned at the beginning that the team wanted to explore all these directions musically, but did
mhm.
you always have a sense that you wanted to do something tailor-made for the spot, like original composition from scratch, or were there moments that you said, "Wow, we should
No.
we should license a song"? Just given that there's like different chapters that you mentioned, a lot of
Hmm.
that comes from being flexible and malleable, and that's what original composition can provide. So I'm just
Hmm.
curious if you were, very set on that, original, or were there moments that you said, you know what, we could license a track and
I wasn't very set on it, but the approach that we had for this particular piece was we briefed music houses right when we got into the edit. And we said, this is what we're going for. There's a couple different places to take this, and we're not quite sure which one we want to do yet.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like I always err more towards the dramatics and
Mhm.
the, orchestral thing. I don't know why. It's just something I personally like.
Mhm.
So that was kind of my view. And, someone else wanted to try something that was a little more into the like hip hop sort of house area. I think what we knew is we just wanted we didn't want it to feel like it was, a music video or anything like that, because we were also working with a music artist. So we just didn't want that to be confusing for people. So we wanted it to be something different than what he would create himself.
Yeah. Yeah, because it would be a little distracting. Definitely.
Yeah,
For
and
sure.
potentially confusing. So we just casted a wide net, and then we did a big sort of listening session. Us and the creative team got together, and we picked out the things that we wanted to try. And we also gave the editor, which is, our true craftsman in this, that sort of free reign to pick what she liked too. And we went from there. And yeah, I think till the very end, we were sort of changing the music and still deciding on it. I think 2 days before delivery, we were still like, should we do this track? So we had two in the running for a really long time, and we ended up going with the track that went out, and it's definitely more dramatic. And I think it's got this like classical vibe to it, which I think was really nice juxtaposition of like what's going on in the scene. I think the other track that we had was a lot sexier. So it just took it even further into this sort of sensorial thing, but maybe too far. But I think they would have both been great. But ultimately, that's how we got there, as we casted this really wide net. We did the most fun part of just listening, and then also giving the editor that free reign to say, like, nothing about the background of what the clients like, what we like, what do you like? And that really helped us to sort of
Yeah.
narrow things down.
Yeah. What a great campaign. That was very interesting. And, obviously, like we're here to talk about music, right? It's so important. And the goal of this podcast is to just understand, you know, what makes music in advertising so effective? How can music shape these campaigns and add that recall, right? Memorability. It's like
Absolutely.
when someone likes the music in a video, they're twice as likely to remember that video, right? So
Hmm.
it's so powerful, right? And you've obviously had like an amazing career, and I'm sure your thoughts on music for advertising have evolved, right, throughout your career. So I'm just curious, like one of the things that I'd like to ask is when you first got into the scene as a creative,
Mm.
um, to now, what sort of has changed? Like what is like some of the biggest learnings or some of the things that you now know that you didn't know when you were like a junior creative?
Yeah. I mean, I think I told you this before, but like for me, music has always been like a huge part of my story. I know I came from Austin, and music was part of everyday life, right? So we were either at Waterloo Records, like if you know what that is, it's closed now, sadly, but that's where you would hang out during the day. And then at night we would go to shows, or if there was a party, there was probably someone playing music at that party. It was always kind of in my mind. So when I got into advertising, of course, like music was top of mind too. It wasn't just like, what's the idea? It was like, well, what's the track though? What's the track? Basically, I think when I came in as a junior, I didn't really know what possibilities there were. I kind of thought, oh, you just buy a track from an artist and you put that on your edit or your commercial or your radio spot or whatever. I think this idea of creating something custom wasn't really something that I realized I could do for a little while, or even knew how to approach. And now I know all of these different options that we can take. And I think that's really widened sort of the aperture of what is possible for me. Again, like this approach of briefing multiple music houses, or getting an orchestra with Max Richter to like craft something from scratch. I would have never known that was even possible or where to start when I first got into the industry. It was more just like, let me search for tracks online and see what's working, which of course we still do to some degree, but I think the craft level has skyrocketed since then, for sure.
Yeah. And the beauty is when you can do both, right? When you can perhaps work with a very cool up and coming artist, but then also tweak, customize, or create something
Hmm.
new with that said artist, right? And you can get the best of both worlds, right?
Exactly. I think I told you about this project I did for Converse and the process there with that editor. And I feel like that's one of the coolest ones I wanted to talk about on the podcast.
Yeah, let's
Cool.
do it.
So the Converse project was for Made by You, and it was a couple years ago, and we did it with an editor named Sam Ostroff. And that was a really interesting musical experience because we had no idea what the music was, but it's Converse, so it's got to be cool. It's got to be interesting. It can't be just, the latest hit. And we wanted it to be sort of a journey through different personalities because that spot was about how everyone puts their personality into their chucks. And we wanted the music to sort of reflect that too, this like duality and like you kind of couldn't place the track, but it felt really layered and different. So I think he ended up using maybe 3 tracks in that. I honestly don't even know where he got some of them from, but he crafted that whole thing together with a music house, I think, too. They were just sharing ideas back and forth, but it was really interesting the way that that got built. And, talking about like evolving how you think about music, I always look at that as sort of like the gold star to me of where that was really mastered because it felt so original and different. It was like made for the spot and made for us.
Yeah. And you
But
had existing tracks, right? From artists there. The role of the editor was crucial. And but a lot of times it's the editor, the music company, the agency all working together. The teamwork makes the dream work, and everyone being looped in and getting in early and going through these options and then having sort of like creative flexibility to like maybe, you know what, like maybe go outside of the brief. Maybe the brief
yeah,
calls for X, Y, and Z, but you pulled up this new direction that no one thought. Yeah, it might be risky to show something like that, but if it works, follow your gut and then look where you can go. So, but I think
exactly.
it seems to me hearing you talk that there was a little bit of that going on.
Yeah, but I think that comes from like giving people some creative freedom too, because they always say, "Oh, music is so subjective," and I think there's definitely some truth to that. But sometimes we can get too, just like a client could get very in the weeds with this is what they think is right. We can do the same. And I always try to, especially in the edit, unless we've planned far, far in advance that this is the track and this track is maybe the lyrics are the story, and so we have to go with it. If that's not the case, I try to always take a step back and say, like, what would you do? Because it just opens up ideas and allows us to come up with something that maybe we didn't expect and push the envelope a little bit versus being so prescriptive on this is exactly the way that I see it. I think that's the beauty of bringing on creative partners. They think of things that maybe you hadn't yet. So I always love that. And we did the exact same thing on Schick. We felt like the edit was really great, but we wanted the sound to be elevated. And so I briefed the editor and I said, this is kind of what I'm missing from it. If I didn't tell you to do any of the stuff that I've been telling you to do, what would you do with this? And we like walked away for 2 days, came back, and it was completely different. She was, she just made her decisions and sort of what she wanted to do. And we kept a lot of that. And I think it was just from like giving them some creative space to mess with the audio, mess with the music, and do things a little bit differently. So I think it's
Yeah.
just not letting yourself kind of get in the way sometimes and allowing new ideas to come in, I think is good.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of times like from the vantage point of a music company, you get looped into a project, there's a music direction, and a lot of times like you just focus so much on that music direction and nailing it. But a lot of times it's best to pretend that there's no music direction and you have a blank
Hmm.
canvas and just go from there. And like the best projects happen there, and it makes people rethink. And that's like when you start taking risks and thinking outside the box, like the good things can happen.
That's a
So
good tactic too, because I think especially when you're casting that wide net and you're going to music houses and saying like, what do you got here? Sometimes it can all sound really similar. And then if someone's doing something that's pretty different, it just makes you stop for a second and think. And you listen to the track harder, maybe than you even would, because sometimes you're sort of speeding through the post is very fast paced. So there's kind of a lot going on. And
Yeah.
those things I always am like, wait, what is this? And sometimes it's
Yeah.
crazy, and sometimes it's just crazy enough, you know?
Yeah. There's something about like, because there's always the music brief, right? There's always a music brief that someone is writing,
Oh, yes.
creating, and um, that can help you, but it can also not help you. Because
Hmm.
at the end of the day, the spot is what dictates everything. And there's something, I don't know what it is, but once you put a track into the spot, everything that's how you get informed. That's what moves you. A
Hmm.
song by itself is gonna move you, but it won't tell you what it needs to tell you until it's in the cut. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like you might
Yeah.
get like the most amazing original composition to the brief or a song, but like once it's in the cut, like it might not work. Um,
Totally.
so a music brief is good to get some inspiration, but it won't tell you what it needs to tell you. Does that make sense? So like it's
Hmm.
it's just incredible. There's that like feeling that you get once you put the track with the spot and the dynamics and how the VO and the music collaborate and communicate with one another and the visuals. Like it's just you just have to go through that process.
Yeah.
Um and it's incredible like sometimes it's better to just tinker and not follow sort of like a music brief because it can derail you sometimes, right?
Yeah. I think we'd be surprised how many times this like going off brief when it comes to music has ended up in a better place. Because even my husband's an editor, and sometimes when he's working from home, he'll go through the same process with someone else that's not me, right? A creative director has given him a bunch of tracks to try, and he puts them on the cut. And as someone very removed from it, sometimes I'll just watch and listen, and it's so funny to just see that you could love the spot 1 second with one track, and then another track is on it, and you just like never want to watch it again. It's really not good. It's cheesy all of a sudden, and just with one piece. And I'm not even sure like color can do that. There's something that just the music has the power to do that. I could get
Yeah.
over if the color is not perfect or something, and I could still say I loved that spot. But if the music's off, it just ruins it, you know?
Yeah. Or even if it feels like generic or nothing special. And I think people
Hmm.
are people know. People have this like feeling whenever they see something. They sort of know the quality behind it. They know if it sounds like a stock track or they can tell. So it's just that feeling that you get.
Hmm.
So yeah, and it's just interesting the fact that you're married to an editor. I'm sure that shapes how you think of post-production a little bit,
Hmm.
which I think it's awesome because I mean, um, a lot of times like we get so obsessed in whatever happens before, but just people tend to treat music and sound sometimes as sort of like an afterthought,
Mm.
and they prioritize other elements, but it makes or breaks the campaign.
Oh, definitely.
So
Definitely.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
you
sorry.
sorry, no, go ahead. Sorry, I was gonna.
No, I just got distracted by my dog eating this bone behind me really loudly. Let me know if it's too loud and I will move him.
No, no, I cannot hear it at all. No,
Okay,
no, you're
good.
good. You're good. You mentioned Max Richter,
Mm.
um, and I know that you worked on a New York Life campaign for the Super Bowl, and talked about that process, about how it was working on that project and how that came to be.
Yeah, I loved that project so much. It's interesting because that time, again, classic me, I wanted something sort of emotive and orchestral, big surprise. But it was a very emotional spot. The spot itself, it's about love, which is, such a journey, and we feel so many things on that. So I wanted something that really went there. and it couldn't feel like a track that was surface level because like it's a very deep story about these different levels of love that people feel. And the best form of love basically being agape, which is action, love and action. So we wanted it to be this journey through these different chapters of love and sort of what they mean. And I love Max Richter, speaking of love, and I had this song kind of stuck in my head. I don't know if you've ever watched The Leftovers,
Hmm.
but that like main track in The Leftovers, he did that, and it's very dark, very beautiful. It's just every time you hear it, you just feel something. You can't help but feel something. And it just takes you deeper and deeper in every time you listen to it. There's no like happy ending kind of in it, but it's a great track. And we reached out to him directly to share the spot and see if he would be interested in scoring for this Super Bowl spot. And he was very interested in the project. He loved the story and the background of it and the creative idea. And, everything came together and then we started working on it. But he was very, I believe, like he provided us with like some varied options, but he didn't make big sweeping changes based on feedback. So I think we gave him a lot of leeway to say, like, we've done our side. Now you craft what is right for the music side. And he brought, huge orchestra together and scored this for us. And it was
Yeah.
amazing. It was so dark. The clients were very nervous about that. And we almost didn't go with it because they thought, oh, this is like too scary. It's too emotive. It was making them like feel too much.
Mm.
And it took a lot for us to sell that through. And in the end, they were so pleased with it and so happy. But we almost actually switched it up and went with a stock track. They had us
Wow.
look at all these other options because they
Even
were like,
for the Super Bowl.
yeah, they were just like, it's just too dark. It's just too dark. And I think a lot of creatives get that comment sometimes, to make things lighter and happier. And, it was a lot of conversations with the clients and helping them understand, I think, two pieces. One, that if you're in the Super Bowl, you want to make sure you're not putting out a track that someone else could be using because how embarrassing, right?
Yeah.
So that's one piece. And then the other piece is just having a discussion with them about like bravery and, being bold. And they got there with us and they were really happy in the end. And we ended up using that track in a lot of different places too, even outside of the Super Bowl. So it became kind of a piece of music that we used across a lot of assets. So I think that trust really went a long way. But that was a special project, and it's such like an honor to work with him too, because I'm such a fan.
Yeah. Such a distinct sound, and you don't know the amount of briefs and projects that we get with that name as a reference.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And it's effortless, right? It's like effortless.
Hmm.
So it's interesting, but a lot of what I keep hearing is like this concept of like leeway, giving people leeway. And
Hmm.
like it seems that like uh that's like a very important part of the whole thing, of the whole process. And it's nothing like sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes like they can put you in a box sometimes. It's normal
Hmm.
in this industry. Sometimes when you're working with different people, directors, VFX, posts, like across the board. Right. So it's just good to like when people stress that that's super important, give others leeway to shine or to do something, think outside the box and communicate. So I think that's very underrated.
I
I
mean, I
just keep
think
hearing that. Yeah.
to me, I always think like what inspires me most, is it when I'm being told exactly what to do or when someone's saying, I believe in you and your ideas and I want to see what you would do. I mean, for me, that would motivate me more to work harder and to think harder about what the best creative solution is versus try to just please someone else telling me exactly what they want. And I think that goes for music, color, original thinking, and like when you're just ideating at the beginning of the creative process. I think if we don't make space for that, then
Yeah.
all the ideas will be identical to what you've done in the past and how boring.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. That's why I always like to, whenever I'm working on stuff with the team, it's give the client or the brand whatever they're looking for, but also give them some wild cards or like sort of
Mhm.
like your interpretation of it because like it's good. It's good for the project, it's good for everyone involved. Even if it doesn't work out, it serves the campaign. You need to
Mhm.
go through whatever you need to go through to land on the perfect track or the perfect edit, whatever it is. Like you need to give people the opportunity to give you the wrong song so that you
Yeah,
can land on the next one,
so true.
right? And I
So
think
true.
it's that's underrated as well,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, that's so true. So sometimes you try a genre on and you're like, well, that's a no. That doesn't work. You never would have
Yeah.
known had you not.
Yeah. One question that I have for you is, obviously like whenever you work on campaigns, there's a lot of people involved. But even
Hmm.
within the agency, there's a lot of people. You have different creatives in-house. You have producers. You have, the client that you have to, talk to the account team. Whenever it comes to music, right? And you're trying to approve things and get things in the right direction, whenever there's too many cooks in the kitchen, what's sort of like something that you do to make sure that things, get pushed further along and things don't get stale or stagnant. Like, what do you do to push creative ideas forward in a room with so many people in a topic of like music is so subjective? So, what are some
Hmm.
of your tactics or things that you normally try to do to push?
In terms of music specifically.
Yeah, yeah, in terms of music, but maybe it could be
Um,
applied to other areas too. It's just like,
I mean, I personally don't mind the varied opinions. I think it's then just making sure that you're not trying to please all of those opinions. But I think it's good to play things for other people, let other people listen, see what they think, unless you think something just in your gut, you're like, this is truly horrible and I need no more opinions. But for example, something I've been doing a lot on the project since I started at BBH, I've created a really good partnership with one of our EPs, Rachel Tierney. And even if I'm not working on a project with her, if I'm trying some music, which we did definitely with Schick, I just sent it to her and I said, what do you like? What sounds good to you? Just getting somebody again that's just like out of it is not the key decision maker on this specific project, but can give me their true, honest opinion. I think is really nice to just kind of get this other person's perspective because there's always some like value that's added as if you feel like they're a collaborative creative partner. And I think that she's that. She's always thinking like, oh, I think maybe the sound design could get louder and the music's maybe overpowering it or the other way around. I think having those sort of confidants that you can share things with and debate and talk, I think is so great. Even people outside of the agency and other creative friends that I have in the industry, I'll do that a lot with them too. We'll share projects that we're doing, talk about musical things that we're doing, color, directors. This is just like shared information and things that we discuss a lot. But I think as far as varying opinions, again, for me personally, it doesn't bother me because it helps me sort of work it out, you
yeah.
know? But I think where it can get out of hand is if you feel like you need to answer and make changes for all those opinions. That's sort of where it ends, Then you've got to be like, what's my point of view? And this is kind of what we're going to go for now. But it's because if you're making micro changes that everyone has given you, it's just going to be a big mess,
Yeah, I
It's
like I
more of
like
a
what you said.
fact-finding mission.
It reminds me of this analogy that I always refer to. But it's like the analogy of being in the dance floor and in the balcony. So like,
Mm,
and a lot of times like you're in the dance floor, you're in knee deep in the edit and like in the like surrounded like just in the work. But sometimes you have to zoom out, go to the balcony and speak with someone that maybe it's not on the project, someone like Rachel, right? And get that perspective.
yes.
And
Yeah, the
it's
bird's
and I
eye
think
view.
and I think it's like it's not either or. I think it's you have to do both. It's like it's always
Hmm.
good to like be on the dance floor, be where the action is, and then have the capacity to step out, go to the balcony, and get a
Hmm.
better view on things, speak with
Hmm.
other people, and then go back in. And it's the concept of going in and out that can just help us be more creative and be more intentional and make good decisions.
That reminds me, I love that analogy, and that reminds me of another sort of artistic comparison. I in college studied painting as well as advertising, creative advertising. It was my dual major. And one of my painting teachers, Marvin Madelson, I remember he used to always say that I would get too close to the painting. And he meant that literally.
Hmm.
Because I do a lot of portraiture in addition to my work, my day-to-day job. And that's what I was studying with him. And when you're doing a portrait of someone, if you're really, really close in, it might look right to you. It might look right, but he always had us take a really far step back. And he would come over, and I remember he would move me from the front and make me stand in the back so I could see it from a distance, because that's when you really get the real perspective, if it looks like this person or not, and if it's accurate. And every time I did it, I swear I always noticed something was wrong, that I
Hmm.
didn't see
Yeah.
because I was so close to it. Because I thought, oh, it's perfect because I'm like this close to the eye. But when I would step back, there was always some error that because I wasn't getting the distance I hadn't seen yet, but he had. So I think those kind of things, that's like a very literal comparison,
Yeah,
but I think
no,
it applies.
it applies 100%. And but I feel that nowadays more than ever, it might be a little bit difficult sometimes to take a step back, go to the balcony.
Hmm.
Everything is going a million miles an hour, right? So I mean, it's technology with AI, with everything. It's just so easy to be in the work all the time. But it's just it reminds me of that, like just the concept of going in and out and how you can get the best ideas validated doing that. Even with
Hmm.
people that super outside of your orbit that but maybe there can be exactly what you needed to hear at the time.
Hmm. Yeah.
I guess like what advice would you give other creatives, ECDs, junior creatives, whoever, like other people about music, about how to work with music inside of an agency, just advice in general of things that have worked well for you and what would you recommend?
Hmm. I mean, I think, God, there's so many things. I would say that for me, the advice I would give is music is not just, don't see it as just one track. I think to me, of course, there's a track being pulled in to an edit or what have you, but it's the ebbs and flows of it. It's how you mix it at the end. It's the sound design that you bring to it, like it's the dialogue, all those things living together, I think make it. It's not just, oh, this throwing this one track on. There's artistry that happens after it's on too, in the mix after specifically, that I think really elevate it. And I would just sweat all those details, because I would say with some of our most recent projects, it's the track was working on the cut, but when we got it into the mix, it was really, really good because we brought it in with all the sound design, all the dialogue, and all that mixed together. It just felt like it's been lifted up even further. So I would say that, and I would also try to, not just stick with your first thoughts. In I think that's super hard. But always try something that's very different than what you had initially gone out for, just to
Hmm.
see, just to
Yeah.
see, you know?
Do you feel that sometimes people are very quick to judge something or like they hear something, they see something and right away they're giving an opinion instead of like,
Yes.
hmm, just sitting with it. Sit with it. I've had moments where like a new song comes out and I hear it for the first time and then I hear it again and then I start hearing things that I didn't hear the first time. And it just
Hmm.
gets like like the more you ponder over something, the more I don't know, you start getting other ideas
Hmm.
and other thoughts about it.
I think it's also just a little bit of patience too. I think you said it earlier, like things are moving faster, there's more urgency. It's so true, and even when you're exploring different tracks, sometimes I'll catch myself just listening to the first 3 seconds and then being like, nope. And sometimes if you sit there and you wait, just wait 10 seconds, there
Hmm.
might be another part of the song or another sort of movement in it that you pull that out and you say, no, that's it. But we just move so fast sometimes that we're just clicking through, and you have to force yourself to sometimes wait and not just judge so quick and
Yeah.
see if there's something still there, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes like when you're scoping out a campaign and you're talking about the timeline, it's it's and like most of the time is pre-production and then you shoot and then after the shoot post and then you have to like ship in a week.
Hmm.
Um, but sometimes giving post the right time because that's when you can, try music and try different things, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and not have that rush, right?
Yeah.
Like that's I just went there. Like maybe what if more campaigns had more time in post? Maybe that could
Hmm.
be bad as well, no? Because if maybe like maybe you are over analyzing and over trying things that right? It could be a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Um
I think another good tactic could be, and this is something I noticed our CCO, Erica Roberts, doing recently, and I made a note of it because I just thought it was a clever thing to do, is let the clients know early on that you're going to be exploring more with music. Like the first track that they hear is not the one, and that we're going to be pushing the music till the very end. I think she was talking to me about, making sure I was bringing that up because we otherwise we would kind of get stuck with the first thing. But if you just give them the heads up that this is something that we're going to be pushing and trying to elevate throughout this whole process, so don't get stuck in this right now. It's really helpful because then they have it in their mind. They're like they're not done yet, you know? They're not done yet because there's a lot of moving pieces. And it's really helped us to continue to push that craft to the very end versus feeling sort of rushed to do it. As I said, we on many projects have still been pushing the music till like day before delivery. So it gives us that freedom versus feeling like we have to be stuck in something. If you just openly say early, I'm still working on this, and we're going to keep pushing it until the very end. So it's great for you and for us.
that's amazing. Maybe that could be pushed uh to other places as well. Like that
Hmm.
concept is like across the whole chain. Um, so
Well,
it's
sometimes it's obvious, right? I mean, with VFX or something, they can visually see it doesn't look right early, Oh, I know that's going to change. That's not how the phone screen's going to be. Like
but with music
everybody
we don't
knows
do
that.
that. With music we don't do
No,
that. We're very quick to
no, there's like,
judge.
oh, that's
Yeah.
not the track. You know, it's it's
Yeah.
hard. It's not as in your face of, oh, that's clearly the offline color. You're going to do something with that. I think we always have to put some sort of track on it. And I think sometimes the more you hear it and the more you show that to clients, the more used to it they are. And then they think, well, this is it.
Yeah.
So you
Doesn't
just
have to
got
be
to
perfect
always
right
remind
away.
them.
I feel that with music people expect perfection right away.
Hmm.
Um and so but if you give it a minute or if you could tweak this or adjust this, like it's again time and yeah, time and give people leeway.
Hmm.
Right? Jane, no, this was great. I love this conversation, love everything, we're talking about and music is so important. So like your perspective is gonna help a lot of people and that's what we're trying to do here.
I
Just like,
hope so.
yeah, yeah. Prioritize more music. That's what we want to talk about. Like just get it out there. It's important. So I appreciate you, Jane. Thank you so much for your time. This was great.
Thank you.